My friends, wealth is not found in money first. It is found in the mind. True riches are not discovered in banks or stock markets. They are hidden in ideas, vision, and purpose. The richest place on earth is not the oil fields of the Middle East, nor the gold mines of Africa, nor the technology hubs of Silicon Valley. The richest place on earth is the graveyard, because there lie books never written, businesses never started, dreams never lived, inventions that could have changed the world, but died with the people who carried them. But here is the good news: you are alive, which means it is not too late. I remember meeting a young man who once worked sweeping floors in a small shop. Day after day, he dreamed of starting his own business. People laughed at him. They told him, "You are not educated enough. You don't have the connections. You don't have the money." But what he did have was vision. And vision, when pursued with discipline, will always attract provision. That young man persevered, saved little by little, learned every day, and today he owns the very company he once cleaned for. This is the truth. Wealth is not about where you start, but where you decide to go. Riches are not handed down. They are created, and they are sustained by responsibility, perseverance, and faith. But let me warn you, the path to wealth is not paved with comfort. It is paved with consistency. It demands that you change how you think, how you act, and how you use your time. The difference between those who only dream and those who succeed is that successful people do not wait for the perfect moment. They create it. Do not tell me the world is against you. Yes, the world is tough. Yes, opportunities seem uneven, but history has shown us again and again ordinary people can rise from obscurity to influence, from poverty to abundance, when they refuse to give up. The future belongs to those who believe in something greater than fear. It belongs to those who see not only what is, but what can be. So, if you are serious about becoming rich, I challenge you today: discipline your habits. Protect your vision, invest in your growth, and never surrender to excuses. Wealth will not chase you. You must chase it with wisdom, with integrity, and with relentless courage. And remember this: the seed of greatness is already inside you. The question is not whether you have the potential. The question is whether you have the persistence. So rise up! Do not let your life become another story buried in the graveyard of wasted potential. Step into your destiny. The world is waiting for your gift. Because the greatest wealth you can create is not just for yourself, but for generations yet unborn. And my message to you is simple, but powerful. The best way to predict your future is to create it. And the time to begin is now. My friends, if you want to be wealthy, if you are serious about becoming rich, you must first understand this truth: wealth does not begin in your pocket, it begins in your head. Wealth is not a number in a bank account. It is not the shine of a new car. It is not the size of your house. True wealth is an idea, a vision, a mindset. And until your thinking changes, your circumstances will never change. Do you know why two people can grow up in the same neighborhood, in the same poverty, facing the same struggles, but one ends up wealthy while the other remains stuck? It is not the environment, it is the mentality. One sees problems as dead ends, the other sees them as opportunities. One says, "This is all I'll ever be." The other says, "This is only where I'm starting." You see, poverty is not just the absence of money. Poverty is the absence of ideas. Let me tell you a story. A young woman once worked as a waitress in a small cafe. She had nothing, no financial backing, no prestigious education, no family fortune. Every day she served coffee and cleaned tables. Most people around her were just waiting for payday, waiting to survive another week. But this young woman thought differently. As she poured those cups of coffee, she began to study the patterns of her customers. She noticed what they ordered most. She noticed what times the cafe was busiest. She noticed which desserts sold faster than others. While others were just working for a wage, she was gathering information, building an idea. One day she told herself, "If this cafe can survive, I can start one too." She took notes, asked questions, and saved every tip she earned. Years later, she opened her own small bakery. That bakery grew into a chain. Today she is a millionaire. How? Not because she started with money, but because she started with a mindset. Her wealth was born in her mind before it ever showed up in her bank account. Now I ask you, what are you thinking about every day? Are you only thinking of survival, of bills, of how to get through the week? Or are you thinking of possibilities, opportunities, solutions? Because your thoughts are the seeds of your future. All you think about is lack, you will multiply lack. But if you think about abundance, you begin to attract abundance. The richest people in the world did not begin with money. They began with an idea. Henry Ford began with the idea that cars could be affordable to ordinary people. Steve Jobs began with the idea that computers could be in every home. Oprah Winfrey began with the idea that her voice had value. My friends, wealth begins in the mind, not the bank. Let me challenge you, money is not your problem. If you lost every dollar today, but you kept your ideas, your discipline, and your vision, you could rebuild again. But if you gained $1 million today and you had no vision, no discipline, and no ideas, you would lose it all in a matter of time. This is why you see lottery winners go broke. Because money without mindset is wasted. But a mindset without money will eventually create money. Think of the farmer. He doesn't begin with fruit. He begins with a seed. And even though the seed looks small, hidden, almost insignificant, the farmer knows that within that seed is a tree. Within that tree is fruit. And within that fruit are more seeds. That is the same with your mind. Every idea you carry is a seed. But if you never plant it, if you never water it with discipline, if you never protect it from doubt, it will die inside of you. What ideas are you carrying right now that you have ignored because you thought you were too poor, too young, too old, too uneducated? What dreams have you buried because someone told you they were impossible? My friends, hear me today. Poverty is not the lack of money. It is the burial ground of vision. You must stop thinking like a beggar and start thinking like a builder. Stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start seeing yourself as the architect of your future. Because the way you think determines the way you live. Wealth is not something you stumble into by chance. It is something you create with intentional thinking. That is why some people can start with nothing but end with everything. Because while others are waiting for opportunity, they are preparing their minds to recognize opportunity. Wealth begins with the decision to think differently. If your mind remains the same, your money will remain the same. If your ideas never expand, your income will never expand. Change your thoughts and you change your life. My friends, the wealthiest place on this planet is not Wall Street. It is not the oil fields of Saudi Arabia. It is not the diamond mines of South Africa or the technology hubs of Silicon Valley. The richest place on earth is the graveyard. Why? Because buried in the ground are dreams that were never fulfilled, ideas that were never acted upon, books that were never written, businesses that were never built, songs that were never sung, and inventions that were never created. Think about it. How many people went to their graves with untapped potential still inside them? How many men and women died carrying gifts the world never experienced? The graveyard is full of vision that was suffocated by fear, of potential that was strangled by procrastination, purpose that was delayed until tomorrow, but tomorrow never came. I remember once meeting an elderly man who told me, I always dreamed of starting my own business. He was in his late 70s when he said this, and with tears in his eyes, he confessed, but I never tried. I was too afraid of failing. That man carried his dream for decades, but he never gave it birth. And now, that vision will be buried with him. My heart broke, not because he was old, but because he allowed fear to steal his gift from the world. This is why I tell people the tragedy of life is not death. The real tragedy is to live your whole life without ever discovering your potential. The real tragedy is to reach the end and realize you spent your years surviving, but never truly living, existing, but never expressing the greatness that was placed inside of you. The graveyard is a reminder, a warning. It tells us that time is limited. It tells us that one day each of us will leave this earth. But before that day comes, we must release everything inside of us. Don't die with your song still in you. Don't die with your dreams still locked in your mind. Don't die with your potential still trapped in fear. There are people right now walking through life with inventions in their imagination that could change industries, but they hesitate. There are people with stories inside them that could inspire millions, but they never write them down. There are people with businesses in their hearts that could lift their families out of poverty, but they keep postponing. Every delay, every excuse, every fear is just one more step closer to carrying your gift into the grave. You must understand this. You don't own tomorrow. You don't control how much time you have left. The graveyard is filled with people who said, one day I will do it, one day I will write, one day I will start, one day I will try. But one day never came. The most dangerous phrase in the world is someday, because someday is not on the calendar. Someday is where dreams go to die. I want you to imagine walking through a cemetery. Picture the thousands of headstones. Behind each one lies not just a body, but a story. Some of those stories were never told. Some of those lives never reached their potential. And here is the most sobering thought one day. There will be a stone with your name on it. Question is not whether you will die. The question is whether you will die empty or die full. Will you take your gifts with you to the grave, or will you pour them out while you have the chance? Look at the people who changed the world. They refused to let their vision be buried. Thomas Edison gave us light because he refused to bury his idea after 1,000 failed experiments. Wright brothers gave us flight because they refused to bury their dream when people mocked them. Rosa Parks gave us courage because she refused to bury her conviction in silence. They all understood one thing. Life is too short to bury your gift, and you must decide today that you will not add to the wealth of the graveyard. Refuse to let your book, your song, your business, your invention, your dream be buried with you. The world is poorer every time a person dies with potential still locked inside. The graveyard is rich, but it should not get richer because of you. My friends, greatness does not begin with greatness. Extraordinary lives are not born that way, they are built. Too often, people look at successful men and women and say, they must have had special connections, special opportunities, or special luck. But the truth is, the majority of people who made history started with nothing more than ordinary beginnings and a stubborn refusal to quit. Think about the story of Abraham Lincoln. He grew up in a one-room log cabin with very little formal education. He failed in business, he lost elections, he faced setback after setback. And yet, this same man became one of the most respected presidents of the United States. What separated him from the rest was not privilege. It was persistence. Ordinary man, extraordinary determination. Let me take you closer to something simpler. A young boy working in his father's workshop, playing with scraps of metal and wood, grew up curious about how things could fly. He had no money, no great laboratory, no prestigious education. Yet that boy, along with his brother, gave the world the gift of flight. The Wright brothers were ordinary men, but they refused to believe their limitations. They saw in their minds what others called impossible. And today, every airplane you see in the sky is proof of what happens when ordinary people dare to think beyond the ordinary. And what about Rosa Parks? She was just a seamstress. She didn't hold a government office. She wasn't wealthy. She didn't have an army behind her. But when she refused to give up her seat on a bus, her single act of courage ignited a movement that changed the course of history. She was ordinary in status, but extraordinary in conviction. Here is the lesson: what makes people extraordinary is not their background, not their education, not even their circumstances. It is their belief, their perseverance, their decision to rise above the excuses and do something about their vision. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they believe that their life has purpose. I want you to look at yourself right now. Maybe you're working a 9-to-5 job. Maybe you're struggling to pay your bills. Maybe you've been told your dreams are too big or too unrealistic. Maybe you think you're just average. But remember this: every extraordinary achievement you see today was once just a thought in the mind of an ordinary person. Every skyscraper was once just a sketch. Every book was once just a blank page. Every invention was once just an idea someone refused to bury. The difference between those who stay ordinary and those who rise to extraordinary is simple action. Action in the face of doubt, action in the face of fear, action in the face of ridicule. Many people are talented, but they never take action. Many people have ideas, but they never pursue them. Many people dream, but they never move. And so their lives remain ordinary. But those who act, those who risk, those who persevere, they transform their ordinary into something extraordinary. And do not think for a moment that extraordinary means perfect. No, extraordinary people still fail, still stumble, still make mistakes. The difference is they keep going. They treat failure not as the end, but as a teacher. They use disappointment not as an anchor, but as fuel. Every extraordinary person you admire today has scars, but they wear those scars as proof of their persistence. When you study history, you will notice that the world does not remember the people who complained. It remembers the people who tried. It does not celebrate those who blamed their circumstances. It celebrates those who broke through them. It does not honor the people who gave excuses. It honors the people who gave effort. And the beauty of this truth is that it is available to you. Extraordinary is not a special category reserved for the few. Extraordinary is simply ordinary plus persistence, ordinary plus courage, ordinary plus faith. Look at yourself again. You may not feel extraordinary right now, but inside of you is the ability to rise above your conditions. Inside of you is a gift, a dream, a vision that, if pursued, can inspire generations. You don't have to be born into wealth. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to wait for the perfect time. You only need to start and to keep going. Because the people who shaped the world were not superheroes. They were men and women who were willing to believe that their ordinary life could serve an extraordinary purpose. My friends, if you truly want to become rich, if you want to walk in abundance, then you must face an uncomfortable truth. Comfort is the enemy of wealth. Comfort is where dreams go to sleep. Comfort is where potential gets buried. Comfort is where excuses find a home. Look around you. Every person who achieved greatness, every man and woman who built wealth, every pioneer who changed the world had to leave the zone of comfort. They had to give up the easy path for the hard one. They had to say no to the temporary pleasures of comfort in order to embrace the long-term rewards of sacrifice. Wealth does not come to those who wait passively. It comes to those who are willing to be uncomfortable for a season, who are willing to wake up earlier, work harder, stay disciplined, and push beyond what feels easy. The truth is, wealth is a reward for consistency, not convenience. Think of an athlete training for the Olympics. The athlete rises before dawn while everyone else is still asleep. They run when their body screams to stop. They discipline their diet while others indulge in comfort food. They endure pain and sweat and sacrifice. Why? Because they know that comfort produces nothing but average, and average cannot win the race. That gold medal is reserved for the one who embraces discomfort. Now apply this to life. Many people say they want to be rich, but they are not willing to pay the price. They want success without sacrifice, profit without perseverance, results without responsibility. But life does not work that way. If you cling to comfort, you will settle for mediocrity. There was once a young man who dreamed of starting his own company. He had a vision, he had ideas, but he also loved comfort. He loved sleeping in late. He loved spending money on things he didn't need. He loved entertainment more than education. And so his dream never left his notebook. Why? Because his comfort was stronger than his calling. His ease was greater than his effort. Contrast that with another young man who had the same dream. He too had no resources, but he had determination. He worked long hours, saved every penny, denied himself the comforts others enjoyed, and used that sacrifice to build a foundation. Today, he employs hundreds of people. What separated them was not intelligence, it was not opportunity, it was not even talent, it was the willingness to leave comfort behind. You see, wealth is not for the lazy. Wealth is not for those who always choose what feels good in the moment. Wealth is for those who choose discipline over distraction, purpose over pleasure, growth over ease. The enemy of wealth is not poverty. Poverty can be overcome. The true enemy of wealth is comfort. Because comfort makes you accept less than your potential. The greatest danger of comfort is that it feels good. It seduces you. It whispers, you don't need to push harder. You don't need to sacrifice. You don't need to change. And while you listen to comfort, time passes, opportunities slip away, and your future becomes smaller. Comfort may feel safe, but it is silently stealing your destiny. Even nature teaches us this principle. Look at the eagle. When the eaglets are young, the mother makes the nest soft and comfortable. But when it's time for them to fly, she begins to remove the soft feathers. She makes the nest uncomfortable. Why? Because she knows if they stay in comfort, they will never spread their wings. They must feel the discomfort to rise into their destiny. And so it is with you. If you cling to comfort, you will never soar. If you only do what feels easy, you will never discover what is possible. Comfort is a cage disguised as safety. Wealth requires you to step out of that cage. This is why so many people remain average. It is not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they refuse to embrace the pain of growth. They would rather stay in a job they hate than risk starting something new. They would rather keep old habits than develop new ones. They would rather stay the same than endure the discomfort of change. But those who are willing to stretch, those who are willing to sacrifice, those who are willing to endure discomfort, those are the ones who will see wealth. Wealth is built in the uncomfortable hours, in the sacrifices no one else sees, in the moments when you push yourself beyond the point where others quit. Comfort is easy, but it is expensive. It costs you your future. It costs you your potential. It costs you your wealth. But discomfort, though it feels painful, is an investment. Every time you choose growth over ease, you are planting a seed for your future harvest. My friends, true wealth is not measured by how much you can spend, but by how much you can sustain. True wealth is not about what you keep for yourself. It is about what you build for generations after you. Too many people think wealth is only about luxury, comfort, and personal gain. But if your wealth dies with you, then you have not built wealth, you have only collected money. Think of the greatest builders in history. They did not just build for themselves, they built legacies. They understood that true success is not what you accomplish in your lifetime, but what you leave behind for others. Wealth has no real power if it ends when your life ends. The question you must ask yourself is not, how much can I get? But how much can I create that will outlive me? Look at the stories of families that have wealth for generations. They understood this principle. They did not consume everything in their time. They planted seeds, they built businesses, they established foundations, they created opportunities so that their children and their children's children could continue the work. That is the difference between riches and wealth. Riches can disappear in a generation. Wealth builds for a century. Let me tell you a story. A man once worked hard and built a small farm. Every season he planted, every season he saved. But he was not just thinking about himself, he was thinking about his children. He taught them how to till the ground, how to store grain, and how to plan for the next harvest. When he died, his children did not have to start from zero. They had land, they had knowledge, they had discipline. That is wealth, because wealth is not only money, it is mindset, it is wisdom, it is vision passed down from one generation to the next. Now contrast that with another man. He too worked hard, he too made money, but he spent it all on himself. He bought luxury clothes, the latest cars, and extravagant parties. He built nothing for the future. When he died, his children had nothing but memories of what he once had. His riches died with him. This is the tragedy of many people. They live as if wealth is only for their own comfort, forgetting that life is bigger than their lifetime. You must understand that true wealth requires responsibility. If you are only thinking of yourself, you are thinking too small. The seed of greatness in you is not just for your own benefit, it is for those who will come after you. That business idea you have is not just to make you rich, it could employ thousands of people. That invention in your mind is not just for your success, it could transform industries. That vision in your heart is not just about your survival, it could shift the future of your family and your community. The graveyard is filled with men and women who thought too small, who lived only for themselves. But the legacy of those who thought generationally lives on. We remember people like Andrew Carnegie, who built libraries for millions he would never meet. We remember people like Nelson Mandela, who endured suffering not for himself, but for the generations of South Africans who would walk free. We remember men and women who planted trees whose shade they would never sit under. That is wealth. I want you to think about your own family. What will your children inherit from you? Will they inherit debt? Or will they inherit opportunity? Will they inherit excuses? Or will they inherit wisdom? Will they inherit the mindset of poverty? Or will they inherit the mindset of prosperity? Because wealth is not just about money. It is about what you deposit in the next generation. Do not live your life only consuming. Live your life creating. Do not live only for the moment, live for the future. A wise person does not eat all the seeds. A wise person plants some for the next harvest. And in the same way, a wise person does not use up everything they earn, everything they know, everything they can give. A wise person invests, preserves, teaches, and builds for tomorrow. You must see yourself as a bridge between the past and the future. Your ancestors paid a price to bring you here, and now it is your responsibility to prepare the way for those who come after you. Do not break the chain, strengthen it, build upon it, expand it. That is how you turn riches into wealth, and wealth into legacy. Wealth is meant to flow like a river, not sit like a stagnant pond. A river nourishes everything along its path. A pond eventually dries out. Yet, if your wealth only benefits you, it will die with you. But if your wealth flows into others, it will live long after you are gone. My friends, you have heard the truth. Wealth begins in the mind, not in the bank. If your thinking does not change, your life will not change. The graveyard is the richest place on earth, filled with unfulfilled dreams, and you must decide that your vision will not be buried there. Ordinary people, people just like you, have done extraordinary things because they refused to quit, because they believed that their ordinary life carried extraordinary purpose. And you now know that comfort is the enemy of wealth, that ease is the thief of greatness, and that if you want to rise, you must be willing to embrace the discomfort of discipline. But more than all of this, wealth is not meant to die with you. It is not just about what you collect. It is about what you create for generations to come. True wealth is legacy. It is what you build, what you teach, what you leave behind that continues long after you are gone. So now the choice is in your hands. Will you think differently? Will you live boldly? Will you push past comfort and excuses? Will you create something that outlives you? The world is waiting and time is moving. You cannot wait for a perfect tomorrow. You must act today. Your mind is the soil, your ideas are the seeds, your discipline is the water, and your faith is the sunlight. If you will plant, if you will persevere, if you will believe, then you will rise into the destiny that was already placed inside of you. The richest place on earth does not need another dream buried within it. The world needs your gift. The world needs your voice. The world needs your wealth of ideas, your courage, your vision. Do not withhold it. Release it, lev it, build it, pass it on.